Summer camp was all bug spray, bunk beds, and that one counselor with a beat-up guitar who only knew 2 chords but made them count. You'd scribble postcards home with shaky handwriting that read, "Having fun even though I cried the first night." And somehow, the mosquito bites, mystery meat from the cafeteria, and those off-key campfire songs stuck with you forever like warm, scratched-up memories. The milkman was a morning magician. He'd bring chilled glass bottles right to your doorstep before the sun even got serious. You'd hear the soft clink of glass just as breakfast was getting started. And if it was your lucky day, there'd be a bottle of chocolate milk sitting there like a secret gift. Just enough sweetness to make the whole day feel special. Watching the moon landing meant cramming into a living room with a tiny black and white TV, twisting rabbit ears just to catch a flicker of signal. Neil Armstrong's voice crackled like a ghost through the static, and no one made a sound. For one rare second, it felt like every heart in America paused at the exact same beat. The Cuban Missile Crisis wasn't just a headline, it was a knot in your stomach. Radios stayed close. Eyes lingered longer on the sky. Schools drilled, duck and cover, while parents tried to hide their own worry. For a handful of tense October days in 1962, it felt like the whole world was breathing in and refusing to let it out. Cameras had flash bulbs you had to swap out after every picture. They'd pop with a sizzle, heat up in your fingers, and you'd carry spares like they were emergency rations. Every birthday or family get-together came with a mini lightning storm 5 blinding flashes just to make sure one photo didn't. She cut off Grandma's head. When the Beatles hit Ed Sullivan, everything changed. The hair, the screaming, the way girls clutched their chests like someone had opened a portal to another planet. For one electric night, every living room in the country turned into a front row seat to the future. That grainy black and white screen never felt so alive. You wore saddle shoes until they practically talked back. You'd scuff them in the morning and spend recess rubbing white polish over the marks. They were just uncomfortable enough to notice, but never quite bad enough to leave at home. Everyone had a pair. Liking them wasn't really the point. Typing class sounded like war. Heavy keys clacked like drums, fingers stained with ribbon ink, and one mistake meant starting over. Forgetting to hit return at the end of a line, the whole thing veered off into chaos. Polaroids were magic tricks. Press the button, hear the buzz, and wait. Someone always said, "Shake it," like it actually helped. When the image slowly faded in, it felt like evidence that you were really there. Onto the fridge it went or into a drawer, never to be seen again. You could drop a couple coins into a vending machine and walk away with actual food. Cold soda, gum, maybe even a questionable sandwich. No touchscreens. No card readers. Just stubborn buttons and snacks that always got stuck one row too high. Back then, it truly felt like America was moving physically, emotionally, forward. Space, highways, big ideas. It wasn't perfect, but people believed in progress, in better days ahead. And you felt like a piece of it, however small. The ice cream truck didn't just play a song. It declared summer. That tinny jingle from blocks away would send you sprinting barefoot across hot sidewalks with a pocket full of nickels. The menu never changed. The joy never faded. Bomb pops tasted like victory. At school, duck and cover drills were as normal as spelling bees. You'd crawl under a desk, cover your neck, and pretend plywood could stop a nuclear blast. It didn't seem strange. Just another Tuesday. The scary part wasn't the drill. It was how routine it felt. Metal lunchboxes were built like tanks, covered in your favorite hero or cartoon, with a thermos that always smelled faintly like spoiled milk. The latch broke, the handle cracked. But you carried it every day like it was a badge of honor. Cartoons weren't called content yet. We had Howdy Doody, Captain Kangaroo, Hopalong Cassidy. Puppets that looked weird, Jokes that were older than your grandparents, and sets made of cardboard, but we didn't care. It felt like they were talking to you. That was enough. You walked to school. No GPS, no check-ins. No grown-ups trailing behind. Just a jacket, a backpack, and a vague reminder to come straight home. Most of us didn't. We wandered, stopped for candy, and still made it back by dinner. The record player was sacred. That soft click, the static, then music. It wasn't background noise, it was the main event. Saturday mornings, first heartbreaks. You knew which 45 skipped and how to fix it with a coin. You listened. Plastic rain bonnets lived in the bottom of every mom's purse. The sky would darken, and suddenly they appeared like emergency parachutes. They weren't stylish. They weren't supposed to be, but they worked. And no one asked why every mom had one. Of course she did. Watching TV meant negotiating with the antenna. Someone held the rabbit ears. Someone else yelled directions. Tin foil helped. Sometimes, when the signal finally clicked into place, it felt like a small miracle. Streetlights with a curfew. Once they flickered on, playtime was over. Bikes stopped. Kids scattered. Moms just leaned out and called once. That was enough. No arguments, just instinct. TV didn't go all night. When the last show ended, a flag waved, the national anthem played, and then static. Time for bed. Or a book. Or just staring at the screen like it had secrets. It didn't, but it felt like it might. Candy cost pennies. Literally. You'd walk in with a handful of change and walk out with a paper bag stuffed with wax bottles. Candy buttons, maybe a jawbreaker big enough to last 3 recesses. Sugar was power. Nobody asked about ingredients. Encyclopedias came in the mail. No search engines. Just waiting 6 to 8 weeks for Volume G door-to-door salesman promised smarter kids and gold-embossed spines. And when the set finally came, it sat in the living room like a trophy. Even if you only opened tea to look up dinosaurs. Soda tasted better from glass. Always. You had to use the opener nailed to the garage wall. And every cap you popped off lined up like trophies on the workbench. No twist-offs. You earned that fizz. Banks didn't just offer interest, they gave you stuff. A toaster, a blender, a set of tumblers just for opening a savings account. Weird? Maybe. But the appliances were solid. Sometimes they were better than the returns. When Bonanza came on, the whole house paused. Or Gunsmoke. Or Andy Griffith. Westerns and laugh tracks. Families didn't sit quietly, they commented. He's no good. He's gonna get it. Turn it up. That was the soundtrack of the living room. The smell of fresh mimeograph paper hit like a memory. Warm, inky, purple letters from the school office. Kids lifted them to their noses like they were made of magic. No one knew why it smelled so good. It just did. Lunch from home meant a paper bag and a sandwich squished under your math book. Bologna and mustard. Chips in wax paper. An apple. Maybe a cookie if someone remembered. You traded snacks under the desk like stockbrokers on the floor. You knew a slideshow was coming the second. The lights dimmed and the projector clicked to life. That first clunk of the tray was unmistakable. Family vacations. Blurry birthday parties. Random shots of aunts you didn't remember. Someone always narrated too loud, and someone else always fell asleep. If this brought back even one memory, go ahead, tap like, and subscribe. Let's keep the good stuff alive. Elevators weren't automatic. They had people inside, real operators in crisp uniforms. Some even wore gloves. They'd swing open the gate, turn the crank, and call out floors like they were leading an orchestra. 4th floor. Home goods, linens, toys. It felt classy. Like you were going somewhere that mattered. Every trunk carried a scratchy wool blanket that almost never got used. It was just there waiting. For a roadside picnic or an emergency snowstorm. It wasn't soft or stylish. But it was loyal. the kind of backup you never questioned. Church clothes itched, shoes too stiff, collars that never laid flat. But Sunday morning meant sitting still on hard pews, counting ceiling tiles, and trying not to laugh during prayers. The sermon felt eternal. Grandma's peppermint felt like salvation. Either way, brunch was your reward. Popcorn didn't come from a bag. You poured kernels in a heavy pan, added oil, and shook it like your arms were on fire. The smell hit before the first pop. When the bowl overflowed, that's how you knew you'd done it right. TV dinners weren't fancy, but they were space-age cool. You peeled back foil, waited forever, and got a hot tray of mashed potatoes, overcooked peas, Salisbury steak, and a brownie that never baked right. It was a tiny metal tray of the future. Tinsel wasn't plastic. It shimmered. Real metallic strips laid one strand at a time. You didn't throw it on, you placed it. Carefully. Christmas lights sparkled through it, making the tree glow like something from a postcard. It stuck to everything. No one minded. Radio buttons clicked like tiny safes. Push one in, clack the others, popped out. Jealous. You had your station. Your song. The sound cracked, the music played, and no one called it analog. It just worked. Behind every TV, glass tubes glowed like coal soft orange light, a faint hum, as if it were breathing. If the screen flickered, you smacked it. If it died, you took a bulb to the hardware store in a paper bag. Fixing wasn't a task. It was normal life. When Kennedy's funeral aired, the country went silent. Even kids felt it like the world held its breath. Black and white images, that slow drumbeat, the riderless horse. Millions watched, together but alone. It was grief on screen and in every living room. Hair curlers weren't for salons. You wound them tight before bed, prayed you didn't crush your head in your sleep, and unraveled them in the morning like a surprise. Sometimes the curls held. Sometimes they didn't. But you tried. School milk came in little cartons that hated you. They tore wrong. They splashed. They refused to open. Delivered in metal crates, they smelled a little weird and turned warm by snack time, no matter how cold they started. Grandma's sewing machine didn't plug in. It had a pedal. You'd watch her tap her foot like a drummer, feed fabric through with perfect rhythm, hands steady, lines straighter than any laser. It clicked and clacked, and somehow smelled like dust and lemon polish. Coke came in glass bottles so thick they could double as weapons. Ice cold from a chest cooler. And in the corner of every diner, a glowing cigarette machine with metal levers and a deep clunk when a pack dropped. No ID. No questions. It was a different world, not better. Just different. Color TV didn't sneak in, it announced itself. When someone on the block got one, the whole neighborhood showed up. You'd stand there, arms crossed like an art critic, pretending you understood contrast and saturation. Even cartoons looked cinematic. It felt like watching the future through a snowstorm. Bank drive-thrus were more than convenient. They were a mini-event. You'd pull up, hit the speaker, and launch your deposit into a clear tube with a satisfying whoosh. It came back with a receipt, a lollipop, and a sense that the future had arrived, and it liked you. Sunday comics were a full-on ritual. You'd flatten the paper on the living room floor and stretch out across two big, colorful pages. Peanuts, Dick Tracy, Little Orphan Annie. Grown-ups read headlines. But for kids, the comics were the headlines. Tipping your hat wasn't just polite, it meant something. Men did it when greeting neighbors or holding doors. Women wore white gloves like they were part of the outfit. Even running errands meant looking presentable. Dressing nice wasn't optional. It was expected. Sidewalks doubled as playgrounds. You crouched low to play marbles, tossed jacks, or wrestled with pickup sticks like it was brain surgery. No screens, no batteries. Just a chorus of made-up rules and good-natured arguments. Some kids swore records had secret messages if you spun them backward. So you'd gather around, twisting the vinyl the wrong way, listening between guitar riffs for something hidden. It was probably just static, but it felt like discovering treasure. Empty lots became ball fields by default. No lines, no coaches, just a cracked bat, a taped-up ball, and a pile of hats for bases. You played until someone's mom hollered from the porch that dinner was ready. At certain department stores, you'd slide your feet into an actual X-ray machine to check shoe fit. You could see your bones wiggle. It felt weird and amazing. No one asked if it was safe. It was just part of the deal. School buses didn't have seat belts, and nobody cared. You bounced around on green vinyl, windows half open, backpacks clanking at your feet. Field trips were more about peanut butter sandwiches and awkward seating than permission slips or safety briefings. Assemblies were a school-wide routine. You'd file into the auditorium, waving paper flags and singing patriotic songs. Sometimes there was a guest speaker. Mostly it was a blur of fidgeting and whispering until the principal gave that look. Gas stations handed out more than gas. Toy dinosaurs, collectible maps, branded glasses. Kids loved the swag. Adults liked the full tank and the smile. It wasn't just service, it was a little moment of surprise. Fountain pens left evidence. You'd come home with blue-streaked fingers, ink on your shirt, and a note from your teacher about neater penmanship. But it felt important, like writing meant something. Even when it bled through the page, cursive wasn't just handwriting. It was a milestone. You practiced big loops on lined paper until your words flowed like ribbon. Teachers circled the bad ones in red ink, but when it clicked, you felt fancy. Roll-on deodorant was a cold shock every time. A glass bottle with a metal ball that clinked as you rolled it. Sharp scent, little sting. It worked, unless you overdid it, and it stained your shirt. Recess was trade time. Comics, cards, marbles, the good stuff. You made your pitch, promised extras at home, and sealed the deal with a handshake. No receipts. Just trust and a backpack full of treasures. Fizzies turned water into magic. Tiny tablets that fizzed into soda grape, cherry, root beer. Like chemistry class, but tastier. It looked like a lava lamp and tasted like pure childhood. Tube socks went all the way up. Red or blue stripes near the top, scrunched or folded, worn with shorts and zero shame. Everyone looked ready for PE, even when it wasn't PE day. Chemistry sets came with real ingredient stuff that would get flagged by airport security now. You could build volcanoes, launch fizz rockets, or accidentally stain the carpet. No goggles, no rules. Just don't tell Ma. Transistor radios were pocket-sized portals. You'd press them to your ear, scroll through fuzzy AM static, and land on Beatles, Motown, or a ball game. A whole world wrapped in plastic, humming in your hand. Cereal box prizes needed patience. You clipped the coupon, taped on some coins, and waited weeks for a toy that might break in an hour. But getting something in the mail, it was everything. Tupperware parties weren't about storage. They were social events. Pastel bowls, burping lids, and kitchen laughter. Moms dressed up, swapped stories, and you knew there'd be leftovers in that bowl for the next decade. Tang wasn't delicious. It was legendary. It was orange, vaguely citrus, and sour. But astronauts drank it, so we drank it. That one commercial made it sacred. Too sweet or too bitter, nobody cared. It was space juice. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In was chaos. Bright costumes. Flash cuts. Jokes too fast to follow. Adults laughed. Kids blinked. You didn't get most of it, but it felt like grown-up TV that accidentally let you in. Rotary phones took commitment. Numbers with too many nines tested your patience. One slip, start over. But that were-click sound, so satisfying, you didn't text. You didn't scroll. You dialed. And you waited. Bench seats were just that, benches. No belts, no cue folders, just smooth vinyl. You'd slide into corners on sharp turns and bounce over bumps. The only airbag was your mom's arm flying out across your chest. Plastic couch covers were a summer punishment disguised as protection. Meant to preserve the furniture, they instead captured every drop of sweat. Sit down in shorts and immediately regret it. Your legs stuck, your back itched, and you never got to take them off. Not unless company left. And even then, it was a maybe. The yellow pages were a brick, thick as a dictionary, shoved under the phone, or used to boost a kid at dinner. Need a plumber? Flip to pee? Lost the dog? Check the classifieds. It was a phone book, a booster seat, and a doorstop all in one. Film came in little black canisters you had to load by hand. Pop the back of the camera, stretch the film, twist the dial just right. Every click of the shutter was a gamble, no previews, no second chances. Just hope and a trip to the developer. Slide projectors were never subtle. Each photo arrived with a loud click chunk as the carousel turned. Blurry lake trips, birthdays, grandma near some ducks. Half the slides were upside down. You sat in the dark, holding cake on a paper plate, pretending it wasn't boring. Canned spaghetti was a weeknight staple. Dumped into a saucepan, warmed till bubbling, scooped into a chipped bowl. Mushy, orange, supposedly Italian. You didn't question it. It was dinner. It was hot. And somehow, it still hit the spot. Drive-in theaters or parking lots full of magic. You hung the heavy speaker on your window and hoped it worked. Families in wagons. Couples in convertibles. Everyone staring up at a glowing screen under open sky. If you dropped popcorn, who cared? The car was already a mess. Diaper boxes used to list the cleaning steps right on the side. Boil, bleach, repeat. No disposables. Just stacks of white cloth, folded into precise squares, pinned with care and hope. A pail in the bathroom wasn't for decoration. Laundry day smelled like soap, rubber, and love. Metal toy trucks were solid, heavy, built like tanks. Missing wheels, sharp corners indestructible. If you got one for Christmas, it lasted until your little brother hurled it at the wall. Then it left a dent. In the wall and the floor. Everyone remembered where they were when JFK was shot. School, work, home. Radios stopped. TVs glowed to life. Adults wept. Even kids understood. The world had shifted. Something cracked. And nothing quite felt the same again. Green stamps were currency for dreamers. You peeled and saved, stuck them in books. Eventually, you traded them for toasters, fans, or maybe a blender. The catalog was a wish list, and when you finally had enough books, it felt like Christmas. Help-wanted ads came in 2 categories, male and female. That's just how it was. Secretaries on one side, mechanics on the other. The divide was wide. Crossing it, nearly impossible. Soda bottles were treasure. You collected them, clinking in a cardboard box, hauled them back to the store for nickels. Enough for candy, enough to feel rich. You could spot a returnable bottle from across the street. They shimmered with opportunity. Movie theaters began with cartoons. Bugs Bunny, Tom and Jerry, Popeye. A burst of laughter before the lights dimmed. A drink in hand. A full night out. Popcorn, candy, magic for less than $1. Dad's aftershave was Brute. Green bottle, silver cap. The scent of cedar, menthol, and manhood. It lived on the shelf like it paid rent. You tried it once, wretched. But to this day, its smell still whispers, grown up. Sunday nights meant shoe polish. Lay out the newspaper, open the tin, brush, buff, repeat. The smell filled the room. You did it because Mom said so, and because polished shoes meant Monday was coming. Smoking on airplanes was normal. Ashtrays in the armrest. Free cigarettes passed down the aisle. Nobody opened a window, but everyone lit up. You landed smelling like a fireplace. No one complained. The Sears catalog was its own library. Toys, clothes, furniture thicker than school books, and more fun to read. You circled pages, made wish lists, pretended Santa was watching. When the Christmas edition arrived, that was the parade. Ordering from it took patience. You filled in a form, mailed it with coins, and waited. Weeks passed. Then one day a brown box with your name on it. That weight? It felt like gold. New plastic lunch boxes had a smell. Sharp, sweet, synthetic. Pop the lid. A bologna sandwich wrapped in wax paper, maybe a Twinkie. That first sniff of vinyl meant school was really back. Kitchen tables weren't granite or glass. They were formica yellow, mint green, or speckled. Chrome legs, slight wobble. Enough to spill your milk. You ate there. Did homework there. Fixed the toaster there. It was scratched, stained, and perfect.